Hello, my name is Joshua Cottle, and today I'll be talking about elections and campaigns of Texas. An election is a process by which we select our government officials and determine matters of policy. And campaigns are the efforts of candidates to secure positions in the government or the efforts to get policy matters adopted. There are 4 different types of elections, and the first of the 4 being primary elections. These elections are the first elections held in the electoral cycle. A primary election is an election used either to narrow the field of candidates for a given elective office or to determine the nominees for political parties in advance of a general election. The next election, being runoff elections, they are held when no candidate gets 50% plus 1 vote in the primary election. Primary elections often have multiple candidates to represent a single party in the general election, and it's not uncommon that a single candidate fails to win 50% plus 1 vote. In such a case, there is a runoff election between the top 2 vote getters. And the third of the 4 different types of elections is the general election. The general election is an election in which voters cast ballots to select public officials at any level, including city, county, congressional district, or state. Major state officials such as the Attorney General, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and Comptroller of Public Accounts are elected in non-presidential election years. Special elections, which is the 4th type of election, are used to ratify or reject Texas constitutional amendments, fill elected offices that have become vacant between general elections, or provide approval to borrow money. There are 6 different types of primary elections. First of the 6 being closed primary. In this one, people may vote in a party's primary only if they are registered members of that party prior to election day. Independents cannot participate. In the second form of type of primary election, it's semi-closed, as in it's similar to closed primaries. Registered party members can vote only in their own party's primary. Semi-closed systems, however, allow unaffiliated voters to participate as well, meaning independents can make their own choice for a party that they choose to vote for. And then the third being open primary. An open primary is a primary election in which any registered voter can participate in the contest regardless of party affiliation. So that meaning that if you are affiliated with one party but you want to vote for the other party, then you can. It doesn't matter who you vote for. You may vote in any party primary regardless of his or her own party affiliation. Then there's semi-open. A registered voter does not publicly need to declare which political party's primary that they will vote in before entering the voting booth. Then there's blanket primary. A primary in which a ballot is not restricted to candidates from one party is called a blanket primary. Then there's a nonpartisan blanket primary and a nonpartisan blanket primary. The ballot is not restricted to candidates from one party, and the top 2 candidates advance to the general election regardless of party affiliation. Texas's primaries are difficult to classify. They are somewhere between open and semi-open. Voters in Texas don't register under a party label and may choose to vote in either party's primary, but they cannot vote in both. Voters who cast ballots in one of the major party primary elections may only vote in the runoff election for the same party in which they cast their primary ballot. Then the process for running in order to decide to running for office in Texas can be as easy as collecting 100 signatures on a city election form or paying a registration fee of several $1,000s to run for governor of a state. However, a potential candidate still needs to meet state-specific requirements covering length of residency, voting status, and age. Potential candidates must also consider competitors' family obligations and the likelihood of drawing financial backing. His or her spouse, children, work history, health, financial history, and business dealings also become part of the media's focus, along with many other personal details about the past. Candidates for office are slightly more diverse than the representatives serving legislative and executive bodies, but the realities of elections drive many eligible and desirable candidates away from running. Then becoming the political party's nominee. In order to become a political party's nominee, you have to. Party members use a ballot to indicate which candidate they desire for the party nominee. Despite the ease of voting using ballot, primary elections have a number of rules and variations that can still cause confusion for citizens. And then, in primary versus general campaigns, what's important in this section is candidates may have the same goal for primary and general elections, which is to win, but these elections are always extremely different from each other and require a very different set of strategies. Primary elections are more difficult for the voter. There are more candidates vying to become their party's nominee, and party identification is not a useful cue because each party has many candidates rather than just one. In the 2016 presidential election, Republican voters in the early primaries were presented with a number of options, including Mike Huckabee, Donald Trump, Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, John Kasich, Chris Christie, Carly Fiorina, Ben Carson, and many, many more. Then techniques and strategies. There are several different techniques and strategies, but campaigns have always been expensive no matter what, so they also have been negative and nasty towards each other, towards both parties. Then in the what's it called? Fundraising, yeah. In order for fundraising, you need to get enough money for the campaign. In order to do that, you need to have donators. And in order to have donators, you need to have support for your campaign, which means you have to have a viable cause. Then campaign finance laws. Let's see. Campaign finance laws. Where was I? Oh, campaign finance laws. Congressional candidates running in the 2014 Senate elections raised $634 million. Finance laws. History of campaign finance monitoring has its roots in a federal law written in 1867, which prohibited government employees from asking Naval Yard employees for donations. In 1896, the Republican Party spent about $16 million overall, which includes William McKinley's $6 to $7 million campaign expenses. This raised enough eyebrows that several key politicians, including Theodore Roosevelt, took note. After becoming president in 1901, Roosevelt pushed Congress to look for political corruption and influence in government and elections. Shortly after, the Tillman Act was passed by Congress, which prohibited corporations from contributing money to candidates running in federal elections. Other congressional acts followed, limiting how much money individuals could contribute to candidates. Then, in the previous two sessions, honestly, what surprised me is how there has been a switch up between the Republican and Democratic Party votes. Many people at first wanted the Republican Party to win in the session before last, and then, in fact, the Republican Party beat Democratic by quite a bit, and then in this last one somehow the Democratic Party won because they saw that they apparently thought that the Republican Party was not as what's it called? Not as viable anymore. The two candidates for the Texas governor's general election, Governor Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke. I believe that Governor Greg Abbott would be a better option because Greg Abbott has more experience and O'Rourke is not as experienced as Greg Abbott would be. And then that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.